The Real Estate Story with Adrian Butera.
Hi everybody and welcome to The Real Estate Story. Adrian Butera here coming to you live from my daughter's bedroom. We're still in stage 4 lockdown here in downtown Metro Melbourne, and I'm once again excited and delighted to have a very special guest. I seem to always draw upon some old friends and that join me with a wealth of experience in our industry, and today joining me I've got Emma Buxton. Welcome along, Emma.
Hi, Adrian. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, mate, it's an absolute pleasure and a delight to have you along here today. Emma, tell me, you're at Buxton Pratt. Give us an insight. What does Buxton Pratt do?
So, Buxton Pratt is a specialist recruitment company. We specialise in real estate and property recruitment, Melbourne-based, although we do have some very good connections with some companies in Sydney and Queensland as well. But predominantly Melbourne-based. All our consultants have come from a pretty solid real estate or property background of some form. So that just takes away having to ask unnecessary questions. We get our clients, we get our candidates. We've done the job that we're recruiting for, so we understand it, a lot better. So yeah, specialist recruitment company, boutique, and we've been around for since 2003. So what does that make it?
Makes it a fairly long time.
Fairly long time.
Fairly long time. So when you say a few of your consultants have come from recruitment industry, does that mean they were, real estate industry, does that mean they were in real estate and then they bring that talent across?
Yes, absolutely. So I don't think we've ever employed anyone that hasn't come from a real estate background, actually, except for my business partner and / sister, Amanda. She brings the HR side. So her background is the HR, although that's, having said that, she's like me, grown up in a big real estate family. But yes, all our consultants have been property managers, sales consultants, mainly a property management background, I'd say.
And that's an interesting transition because you go from property management and you're obviously dealing with problems with tenants, landlords, and properties, and then transition across into recruiting people like you, better than you. Where are the qualities that you look for within those with those roles? How does a property manager help find another property manager?
Well, a lot of them have got a lot of connections to begin with, but a lot of people in property management either start that way because they see themselves going into a bit of a real estate sales career, or they just love property management. But the ones that perhaps see themselves doing a bit more in sales, they have that skill to then combine the two. So your property management background and understanding real estate, and then they've got that sort of sales. So if they hadn't moved to recruitment, they might have moved to real estate sales or leasing or business development or something along those lines. But they've certainly got, having the experience just gives them the empathy. At the end of the day, our job isn't really sales. I don't like to call ourselves salespeople because it sounds like we're sort of pushing candidates to clients and vice versa. So we do prefer to consider ourselves more along the lines of consultants to candidates and to clients. So we're consulting them about their career, we're consulting clients about the candidates, and that's where people with a property management background can be amazing because, as we all know, property managers deal with all sorts of queries and questions and issues and what have you.
Yeah, it's a huge job, and I take my hat off to every single property manager in Metro Melbourne right now dealing with a raft of challenges with tenants and landlords. So we're right there with you in understanding. We're not doing it, but understanding it. Now, you've been doing Buxton Pratt for, I think we work out 17 years. What did you do before that? Did you also come from real estate?
Yes, so I, again, grew up in a real estate family. My dad was a real estate agent all my life, and in fact, he talked us out of ever following in his footsteps and becoming a real estate agent, I think, because
that didn't work. Clearly that didn't work.
Well, it worked to a certain extent in that I tried to stay away from residential real estate, and I think for him, he found it tricky at times because it was 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and anyone in real estate sales would know that. That's hard work and does, impact family life at times as well. However, I did the Bachelor of Business in Property degree at RMIT, and then I followed the valuation stream actually. but ended up in commercial management and residential property management. And then I actually fell into recruitment a little bit. I went travelling and came back and went to see a real estate recruiter to get a job back in the industry, and they happened to be looking for someone. So they
There you
offered me
go.
the job at the time. So I didn't go looking for it. I just fell into it.
RMIT Franklin Street in the city, would that be right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, goodness,
Yeah.
I think it's a bunch of apartments nowadays.
Oh,
I did
I wouldn't know. I haven't been into the city for so long.
so long. Brings back some interesting memories, really.
It sure does.
Well, that's what a wonderful transition. So, who would have known? You could have been a valuer, you could have been a commercial property manager, almost residential, but you got talked out of that by the sounds of things.
I did do it for about 6 months, just before I went overseas when I was 21, I think. Had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know that there was a hot water system that created the hot water. So I sort of fluffed my way through it for about 6 months, but I gained enough experience to understand what it's like and what they go through.
Yeah, wonderful. So Buxton Pratt for the last 17 years, and as I was doing a little bit of research on your firm, I also got a glimpse that you don't just recruit for real estate. Is that still the case? You work outside of real estate as well every now and again?
A little bit. So I've got an insurance arm as well. So I've done a bit of insurance recruitment in the past. And again, that purely came about because I interviewed a candidate 6 months after we started our business that wanted to get into real estate sales, but had a strong insurance background, and offered her a job, and she set up an insurance desk. So that's been fairly successful over the last 17 years as well. But probably 80% of our business would be real estate, property, property development, commercial property, that sort of sphere.
So let's talk about what sort of positions you typically fill. What's the most highly sought position by candidates? So people knocking on your door, and I imagine they do. How does that look? What happens there?
So most of the jobs we fill are property management, leasing, business development, straight property management, head of departments, commercial property management, some owners corporation, facilities management, and then more your support staff in real estate. We tend not to do a lot of real estate sales recruitment, and the reason for that is we just find real estate agents all know each other. They know the agents down the road. They know the agents they want. The salespeople themselves know who they want to work with, so they generally don't need to come to a recruiter. So I'd probably say 60 or 70% of the jobs we fill are property management, and that's generally what the clients and the candidates are looking for.
Yeah, okay. And do you get candidates? Do you get a phone call every now and again from someone that, let's say, was selling or was involved in a completely different industry, not selling? They're involved in a completely different industry, and they pick up the phone and say, "Hi, Emma, I'm out of work, and I think I could be a good property manager. Have you got a job for me?"
I get those all the time.
How do you deal with those people?
Oh, look, it's always good to give them a bit of your time and have a chat. It's an industry a lot of people want to get into for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's not really any barriers of entry besides the agent's rep certificate, which is a pretty quick 6-week course, or we can do it online pretty quickly. Besides that, anyone can get into real estate. So the barriers of entry are low. So a lot of people see that as I guess, an easy industry to get to, but a lot of people think it's exciting as well. So, I had a chat, just example, last week to a friend's son who's 20. He's taking a bit of time out from uni because obviously of COVID. I think he'd be great in real estate, but he approached me wanting to get into real estate. I did have to explain to him.
Did you talk him out of it?
Yeah. Well, I did tell him it wasn't all about having coffees and driving nice fancy cars. So
it is
was
so
a bit
not
surprised
about
to hear
that.
that.
Yeah.
But look, my advice to him was to network and contact a lot of agents in your local area. Real estate agents won't generally come to a recruiter for an entry-level role or for someone that's coming from a different industry, unless I had someone amazing that I was going to market and I thought would be good. I'd let some of my clients know. But my advice to him was to ring up real estate agents in his local area, ask the directors. I mean, it's a bit tricky with COVID at the moment, but any other time, ask if they've just got 5 minutes for a quick chat, just so come across like you're doing a bit of research, like you're researching the industry, you're finding out what it's about, you're starting to build those connections with your local real estate agents. And while they might not have a job now, they'll think of you in 6, 12 months when they do have a need. They'll remember that guy that was proactive, that's kept in contact with them, that's made the effort, and they'll give you an opportunity. And if you live in the area, it's always a plus. Real estate agents love people that live in the area and have their connections, and maybe went to school in the area and all that type of thing.
I think the one bit of advice that stood out there is you saying that speak to those directors like you're doing a bit of research, because often I would take a call where someone says, I want to get into real estate, perhaps similar to some of those calls that you receive. People are in their investigation mode, but they've got a fair bit of front and confidence because they feel like they need to come out of the gates with that confidence, because generally speaking, we are an industry with confidence. But really, it's not necessarily the right way. Let's have a chat first. I like to get to know the person, and doing that research, I think, is wonderful advice that you're sharing.
Yeah.
What about property managers? Do you ever get some that want to transition into sales or different departments? What's your advice to property managers that want to consider? Because some property managers might be listening to this and saying, I'm burnt out, I'm done. Landlords, tenants, all too hard. I love the industry. Where should I go next?
Yeah, that's tricky, because the personality type to be a good property manager is a very different personality type to be a good salesperson. So, as I said before, some people get into property management because it is a good career, but others get into it as a potential stepping stone to move into sales. Some decide after seeing sales that they don't want to take that path. But yeah, look, it's a great transition, because my advice to property managers and to salespeople is property managers bring a different perspective on sales. They can talk to a client about the investment potential, the return on a property. So, they can give them advice on the rental value. So they can bring a little bit more as well to sales than someone that's come straight into sales and had to learn that type of thing on the job. So, yeah, look, the difference again is property management's, I'd like to say it's 9 to 5. It's probably a bit more 9 to 5 than sales. So, that's another reason why people might not want to make the transition. They don't necessarily want the weekend work, and a lot of that after hours work as well. And a lot of property managers prefer to have that regular income.
I wonder if there's a few property managers listening right now that are working from home, hearing you say it's a 9 to 5 job, and they're going, "What a crock!" It's just.
I'm sure they're thinking that, absolutely.
It's all hard.
A lot of companies these days, though, have things set up for after hours numbers and maintenance and a lot of that type of thing. So that's right.
Talk about personality test. Do you personality test either at request, or do you recommend it?
We used to do it. We don't recommend it now for the purposes of recruitment. We recommend it now for the purposes of how to manage a candidate once they start in your business. Or clients will use it to try not to have a department of all similar type personalities.
Right.
So they might be looking for a particular personality that they're missing in their business. But it's not something that they seem to have fallen by the wayside in regards to our area a lot. I think that's more sort of your larger corporate companies that use personality testing. My form of interviewing and reference checking, I rely exceptionally heavily on reference checks. Right. My theory is past behaviour is a really strong indicator of future behaviour. And I always call a landline for a reference check, never a mobile number. I always go online to make sure that the reference that I've been given is actually there employed and in a position of seniority within the business. But references are just gold.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I interviewed someone yesterday and they said, do you mind if my reference checks an email address? I'm like, yeah, no problem, but really deep down, it's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea. And the good thing about specialising in an area is most of the references I'm given, we know. So they're pretty honest and open with what they say. And most real estate agents, it's a small industry.
Yeah.
You can't get away with much.
I agree. And what about qualifications? What qualifications, apart from, and I say apart because you must in our industry have an agent's representative certificate or must be a licensed estate agent, but apart from those qualifications, what do you look for, or what is a standout as far as recruiting goes?
Well, yes, you've got to have your agent's rep, obviously. I don't look a lot at qualifications in real estate, I have to say. It's very heavily based on experience. As I was saying before, the barriers of entry are fairly low, but experience is gold. So for me, when I look at a candidate, what stands out for me, if it's a younger candidate, I really like to see if they've worked throughout school. I'm always impressed with someone that's had a pretty steady part-time job from the age of 14 or 15. That stands out a lot, and it's a little bit rare these days. Kids are pretty scheduled with sport and what have you, so it's harder to find a part-time job and have the time to do that. So I guess on the flip side to that, I look at people that have had outside commitments. If they've been part of a basketball team their whole life and they've taken on a job of a coach or a referee or what have you, just things like that stand out because they show they're community minded. They give back. They're passionate about something. So I do pick up on a lot of those things. And if I do see someone with not a lot of experience, but that's got, as I said, a part-time job, I had a commitment in another area, I'll generally get them in because they're generally good quality, passionate people.
Yeah, I think there's some great little gifts there that you've highlighted, and for those that are not using a recruiter, and I certainly can't sell you out of your services, which are critical. But for those that are interviewing you, you look for those little gifts there. For those that have worked little jobs early on in life, I think are a great standout, and are more and more seldom found. Sadly, I couldn't wait to get a job when I was 15 or 16. I can't even remember how old I was, but I was dying to get out there and look at me, killed it.
Get some money.
Earned some money and bought a house young, and that was good. It was a good grounding.
And that would stand out. And again, I mean, a lot of clients don't use recruiters for those junior entry-level roles. So I guess my advice to you, not taking away from using a recruiter, is to look out for those things because they do stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good. And tell me, how has the digital world impacted recruitment? Because I remember, and you would too, back when Buxton Pratt started, there was a whole lift out in the Age. It was the place to advertise. Am I right? 2003, that would have been the case.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah,
yep.
If you dropped it on your foot, there's a good chance you would fracture your foot. It was that heavy. And now the newspapers have little to no recruitment pages. Certainly none that I would look at, not for our industry anyhow. They may have executive ads. But so what do you do now?
The digital world has affected us. I was thinking about this question earlier. I would say that the biggest way it's probably affected us is taken away the personal side of it a little bit. I remember when I started in recruitment, I was on the phone the whole time. I don't think I ever had the phone not to my ear. Whereas now it's very much email or text messaging. And I think that's taken away the personal side. And I'm sure it's no different to the real estate industry. I was listening to your podcast with Michael Sands from IGT the other day, and he was saying a similar thing. Nothing beats picking up the phone and having a conversation with someone. So I think the digital world to me has taken away that side of it. When you send an email to someone, you don't generally get an outcome. It's generally a confirmation of something. But when you pick up the phone and have a conversation, you understand someone's needs, and you generally come to an outcome at the end of it. So for me, that's probably where the digital world's affected our business the most, and it's probably the same in real estate. But on the other flip side, it's fantastic because you can reach so many more people. And I think the benefit of the digital world, predominantly to property managers and real estate agents and salespeople, is they're a lot more educated these days. So you've got your, property management chat groups on social media. You've got, which connects people in real estate from all over the state that would not have been connected before. So I'm finding property managers are a lot more educated these days about their rights, their work environment, their salaries, and therefore more fussy with what they're looking for.
Do you provide solutions or advice there the whole way through? Obviously recruitment, but you also have other services through the duration of employment or even exiting employment. Do you offer some support there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we've got a temp desk, which is very busy, and that's a great way for property managers that have come, or support staff that have come to see us to find a job. if they're not employed at the moment, then we get them out temping, and it gives them a chance to try different companies, and they can try before they buy. And that's a great way. Some people never leave temping. They like the variety.
Is that because do they earn good money, or is it just the variety?
They earn good money, but they don't take it home with them at the end of the day quite as much.
Right.
So they're there to babysit, and they do a great job. But with property management, it is a hard job, and you take it home.
Yeah.
I remember the short time I did it, I'd wake up at 2 a.m, wondering if I'd returned a call or handled this maintenance request. Temps do a great job, but they don't take it home. So in that regard, it's just a bit free and easier. And if you can keep them pretty busy, then it works well for them.
Do you remember once you gave an interesting temp to us? It's an old story. It's a good one.
Maybe I've blocked it from my memory.
Yeah, it's a good one. We'll remind each other off here. It's a doozy. So
I have had some doozies.
Yeah, but what about solutions such as obviously the hiring side of things? Do you provide advice to principals about at the end of employment? Do you help them exit someone if it was required, or writing HR manuals? Is that part of the service as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can assist with job descriptions, which a lot of clients don't have in place. Yes, exit strategies. So if a client has, bought a rent roll and they don't need that property manager anymore, we'll step in and help them and, assist them find another job. A lot of our advice, I guess, to clients is to fill them in on what property managers want and what they're looking for, because they don't always know. They might have set up their department in a certain way. And property managers want different things these days. They want a bit more flexibility. They want to work from home a bit more. They don't want to work every single Saturday. So a lot of we do advise clients on their property management department structure to enable the property managers to have a better quality of work-life balance.
Yeah, what a great service. Tell me, and I just thought of this, Emma. What about when you're going through the selection process? And I'm taking a step back in our questions, but do you check them out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn? Do you look at their photos? Do you scroll back a couple of years? And what weight do you give that? I mean, if I'm looking to be a property manager and there's a photo of me at a party, probably, drunk and asleep on the floor because my mates thought it was funny, fairly harmless, but, I mean, how do you put weight on some of these stories and images that you see as you do your research?
Always Google candidate every single time. Before I'll even call them, I'll have Googled them and looked at them on Instagram or Facebook. Sometimes I need my kids' help with that. They're very good at finding people very quickly. Look, it's a bit of a catch-22 because you might have a really good candidate and they're great, but they obviously party on the weekend. And so your advice to them, again, reference checking. Again, if you do that thoroughly and know it hasn't impeded onto their work, then you can generally educate them to maybe make your Facebook private.
Okay.
Try not to make it too available for everyone to see. And look, I could tell you a couple of stories about some funny Facebook pages I've had. And
go on, tell us.
Candidates that I certainly wouldn't have been able to forward to clients, because the clients do it too. We have no doubt clients, the first thing they do that when we forward a candidate, again, is Google them. So we've seen all sorts of candidates, and maybe one or two that we've come across have clearly had a different weekend job that's given them a bit more cash. So you've got to be really careful about how you present your Facebook page and your privacy.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting way of checking people out, and it's a dangerous way, and it's a good reminder to our kids to be careful what you post, because sooner or later it will filter through, and someone will check it out, and it could bite you in the bum, so to speak. What advice would you give someone that's looking to get into real estate right now? Early days as a result of COVID, they may have been in the airlines, they may have been in tourism, they may be in hospitality, but have decided because of COVID that career path that they were in is no longer, and real estate's a possibility. What advice would you give them? You've given us a glimpse with your friend there. What advice would you give someone that's unemployed right now?
Look, real estate's a great industry, and there's a lot of other industries whose skills transfer very well into real estate. So you just mentioned airline host or what have you, or someone that's come from hospitality. I find their skill set transfers really well because they've got that experience in dealing with clients and having to be very quick and reactive with some of the situations that they come across. The battle we have a little bit with a lot of real estate clients is it's hard to get into because a lot of real estate agents are set up where they've got their portfolio. So often when a portfolio becomes vacant, they want an experienced property manager to just step in and manage that portfolio. So it can be, regardless of the lower barriers of entry to get into real estate, it can actually be tricky to get into because often clients, they're busy. A lot of real estate agents are run by salespeople who don't necessarily always understand property management and can't always visualize the skill set that someone out of the industry will bring. So often positions that are vacant just need to be filled by someone with that experience. So unfortunately, a lot of people that want to transfer into real estate often have to start on a more support role. Leasing is a great way to start. Again, people from hospitality or what have you have great transferable skills and work well in leasing. Reception support, which again, reception gives you a great opportunity to see sales and property management. And then you can make that decision as to which path you want to go down once you're in a really good office. But again, my advice would be to research companies thoroughly to make sure you're stepping into a really good, most real estate agents are great to work with, but there are some that, perhaps aren't. So research thoroughly. Again, that's where social media is fantastic, that you can research companies pretty well. And again, start making those connections. But unfortunately, quite often people that are trying to transition into real estate from another industry often have to take a slight step back.
What wonderful advice. And I really do hope some people are listening or tuning in at some stage through the podcast and take that advice and run with it because it's a turbulent time with employment. We all get that, and it's probably going to be around for some time. So that advice, I'm sure, will be very valuable to those listening in. Now, Emma, before I say goodbye, you just gave me some ammunition earlier today when I read your newsletter that you posted yesterday from Buxton Pratt. Is that you've adopted an ISO pleasure? That's word for word. I've taken it from your newsletter, which I laughed at when I realised what you were saying, because you've fallen into some American real estate reality TV. Is this correct?
Yes, I've got a little addiction.
How did that come about? Like, what is Netflix now tax deductible because you're doing real estate learning online via TV?
Actually, thank you. I've just taken a note of that. I'm going to look into that. No, I was finding, obviously everyone's watching Netflix and what have you over ISO. I had started watching a couple of series. I don't watch a lot of it, but the couple of series I was watching, I was deciding were a bit dark and serious. And when you're in ISO, everyone's dealing with so much at the moment. You don't want anything too heavy. And I started watching Blowing Sunsets on Netflix.
What a great show.
Such a good show.
Such a good show.
If you want something pathetic and light and very easy to watch it. I did get a little bit addicted with all the drama. But what I loved about it was watching the homes. They were amazing.
Beautiful homes. I agree.
So I loved that side of it.
I agree. And I must say, because I'm going to mention this because you haven't, but the young ladies that are selling there, they are they're quite attractive, but they are so full on. They are so full on. And I must say, I'm going to say I don't watch it. However, I've watched multiple episodes because Dee watches it at home, and I would walk past and go, "Oh, that looks interesting," and I've sat and watched it, and I've just been consumed into this rubbish television. But what cracked me up the most? Did you watch the episode with the Botox and burgers?
Yeah, exactly.
I just couldn't imagine operating an open for inspection, because that's what it was. It was the launch of a property. Botox and burgers. So you would go there, you would get your Botox update, and you'd get a burger. You'd have a hamburger whilst you walked around the home. Now, I'm not sure what's more dangerous. Botox is pretty safe. Not that I've had any, but I don't know that I want customers walking around my house with a burger.
Well, it is something I have learnt in LA, and actually a girlfriend of mine's mum is a real estate agent in America, so I've been texting her as I've been watching, asking a million questions.
Such
and
as?
it
What
is,
are the questions?
well, I'm a bit intrigued about the commission. They do very well with commission.
Yeah.
I think it's at 6% generally. But it is very common to serve food and champagne at opens. So that was interesting. But the Botox and burgers, it doesn't get any more LA than that.
And I think out of the sales ladies, I don't think I saw any of them wear the same dress or outfit more than once.
No.
They always look
no.
glam.
And season 2 was amazing. Amazing outfit watching and home watching. Loved it.
So you've moved on from selling Sunset. What have you moved to?
So I've moved on to $1 Million Listing Hamptons.
Right. Just
So
as good?
that's just one season. It wasn't quite so dramatic, which probably wasn't a bad thing, but the homes are just amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
Wonderful.
And I think I said in my article, regardless of all the drama and what have you that you watch in those shows, their depth of knowledge on the homes was pretty amazing. And I think they do that because they generally don't get the listing exclusively. They're competing. So that's probably the other difference in America. There's not a lot of exclusivity. So, the depth of knowledge it was really interesting. It made me, it made me have a little bit of respect, I guess, for these salespeople in the end. But it certainly does make people become a little bit attached when they know a lot of the history of a home and even the street. And
yeah, wonderful point. Wonderful point. All the famous people that live next door and across the road.
Yeah, who you'll bump into.
Who you'll bump into, that's right. Emma, thank you so much. Firstly, thank you, because I know you were a last-minute entry and I very much appreciate that. But more importantly, you've been so insightful, and I really hope that many listen to this and gain some knowledge on their very beginning of their real estate careers. Thank you so much for helping out. Thanks for joining The Real Estate Story, Emma Buxton. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks, Adrian.
The Real Estate Story brought to you by Compton Green.